What's up, everybody? Welcome to Production Music Live. My name is Guido. I'm from Cat and Beats, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than mixing and mastering. We're actually going to do sampling, and this is where I started out, and that's why I'm kind of happy to be doing this. Now, we are going to be sampling a record from Ronnie Law's Pressure Sensitive. And back in the day when I started, I would go to people's houses or my friends' houses and talk to their parents to ask if I could maybe borrow their LPs to sample it, because I like making music, and they would always give me their LPs. So I just want to shout out Milo's mom. I still have your LP. I'm still borrowing it, by the way. See, I'm still using it. Anyway, let's start with sampling. If you want to set up an LP player, which can be a little bit daunting because we have to get this audio, somehow we have to get it into the computer. And getting it into the computer is quite easy. The only thing you need to do is bridge the gap between this and the audio interface. Now, the audio interface is not gonna support a phono line in, unless you get a specific one, like an Ikai, Serato, DJ mixer thing or whatever. But if you're just like me and you don't have all those DJ things, you just want to sample and you already have a sound card, what you can do is you get two RCA cables that go out of the phono thing. Then you get yourself a old rusty DJ mixer or a stereo amplifier that allows phono lines to go inside of it. Now take the output of your DJ mixer and or your stereo. For me, that's going to be two stereo jacks that go into my Steinberg UR22 MK2. And from that, you just put it in there. And then you have to make sure that you go to Live, go to Preferences, and make sure that you go on Input Configuration and say that it's stereo inputs, not mono 1 and 2, but stereo inputs. That will save you a big headache that I've already gone through. Now, if you want to then start sampling, your Ableton is going to be grayed out over here, which is obviously going to be a bit confusing again. I've just gone through all this. So it's external in, that's correct, but then make sure to click right over here and click on 1 and 2. So now you get audio from 1 and 2. You can already see a little bit of a green line there. And what we're going to do is also click on Monitor In, click on Record, and then we can drop the needle. I'm just gonna pick the song that I liked from back in the day. And that's a great track, but we also have to prep that we can record right. So I'm just gonna click here and click on None, so that when I press record, it will actually record straight when I click the button. So instead of having to wait one bar and having like sampling this whole thing, just pick the sample that you want to have and record a bar. Now a bar, by the way, is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a bar. Okay, so 4 counts. I want to sample about 1, 2, or 4 bars so that I can loop it quite nice. So I'm going to count and nod my head to the beat and sample it as it goes, and then it's going to be really easy to warp. Okay, so let's just press play again and sample the track. Okay, so I'm cool with that sample. It's a very short little sample, but it's enough to do the job for today. I'm gonna go from my monitor and click back on auto mode, and this will, instead of being grayed out like this, see, it's grayed out now. I can go back inside of it and actually alter things. What I can do now is I need to get the BPM right of the track, so we're gonna warp the track right now. And for that, you already saw that I started on the 1, because that's the start of the sample, the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So start on the 1, and to warp it, I'm going to set the 1 perfectly. Right now, the 1 is a bit off. So the 1 is actually right there where the kick kind of hits. So I'm just going to set 1, 1, 1 here. Boop. There we go. And we're going to find the end of the track as well, which is right there. You can already see that it's a kick drum right there. And we just have to set this so that it's a 4-bar loop. Now this is the bars are right here. So here's the first bar. See, this says number 1, the first bar. Here's the second bar, the third bar, and here's the 4th bar. Okay, so the only thing I have to do is set it to the end of the 4th bar. And now we have a loop that will be looping exactly on 120 beats per minute. Alright, so that's nice and easy, right? At least that's what I think it is. What we're going to be doing next is we are going to figure out the question I always had when I was young. What key is this song in? I would always ask my brother, dude, what is the key of this song? I don't know how to play the song. My brother's a multi-instrumentalist. For him, it was always like, oh, it's just, the G flat, major 7, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, now we are in the Melodyne age, and I use Melodyne so I can not only do it for vocal mixing or, changing the key of a certain song, but I can also now check what the key is. So I just click on transfer, click on play here. It's listening. And it's going to spit out the actual, it says it really small right there, so I'll zoom in for you. The key of the track. It's an F major. How nice is that? I'm sure there's also other software that does the same thing. But now we can also check like how F major is it. So I can just snap to the grid, see how many keys change. All right, looks about right. Let's just also quickly change it to F minor, just to make sure that that the program is right. Yeah, looks about right, somewhere in between. Nice and analogy. So I'm gonna take away my Melodyne, and now that I know the key, I can start making bass lines or things like that. But let's first do some fun lo-fi house and do some mall grab inspired 909 stuff. All right, let's actually use this top grid because it's really easy with this type of music to use the top grid instead of this grid over here. And for that, the only thing we need to do is fill out where the kick drums go and the claps go and things like that. So to understand this part of the groove, the only thing you need to remember is that this is the 1 of every groove. So this is 1 and this is 2. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We should be good to go. So let's just do this. Let's put the sample up a little bit. I promise I won't mix too much. At least I'll try. Put in a clap. Okay, let's put in a hi-hat. As a hi-hat, put on upbeats. Oh. Put in a little tuk tuk tuk. Actually, let's put in a snare drum instead, otherwise I get too funky. Alright. There we go. So that is pretty much how you go to make a really fast groove out of that. Now let's also open up Operator and let's make a little bass line. I like using Operator because it's easy. And let's set the scale to where it needs to be. So right now it's in C major, but we actually need it F major because then we're in scale. Let's just add a very repetitive little bass line and set this operator up so it's a little bit nicer to play with. Put the voices to 1 because we're doing something monophonic. And we're just going to quickly also make the ADSR a little bit nicer. A little bit more release. Good. And let's also add a little bit of FM synthesis to this as well. So we get a little bit of a top end to it. Okay, now we have a little bit of top end. Okay, now we have a little bass line. So I'm just going to put the octave down. And let's just play in something, and then we should be good for lo-fi house. Anyway, probably the first part was enough to play with. Just fold that, put it over there. Extremely repetitive, and we are done with a little bit of lo-fi house. And doing absolutely no mixing whatsoever. If you want, you can also throw in some throws. Okay, so that's that. Now that was a really fast little setup, and if you want to then go further, you can obviously start mixing it. I promise I won't mix too much. Oh man, it's so hard not to. If you want it more lo-fi-y, just cut off a little bit of the top end, and you should be good to go for the lo-fi part. Maybe add a little bit too much of this stuff. And if you want, you can then start wobbling it with like an echo. You know what? I'll do that for another time. Right now, let's change the music genre. Let's sample one more time, and I'm going to show you another function which is kind of key for this lo-fi thing to help you out. We're going to change the genre. We're going to go to about 90 beats per minute. Let's get rid of the 909 kit. Let's get rid of the operator. And let's add in some drums. Now I have a nice little drum sample pack with a butt on it. And I'm going to just sample this. Again, it's the same thing. So I'm just going to press play or record. And you basically just record the, from the one again. So it's easy to warp it. So as you can see, this is the one. I pressed record a little bit too soon. So I'm going to just click on auto. Zoom in a little bit. Set 111 here. And let's get the last one and move that out of the groove. So this is literally the last of the bar. Well, maybe you can do it a little bit nicer. There you go. And let's make this a 2-bar loop. Oops. Like this. Make that a little bit faster. And the next thing we're going to do is slice to new MIDI. And once I've sliced to new MIDI, I'll change the camera angle again, because then we can start grooving out on that thing with this 16 sample part. Now, slice to new MIDI, it comes from an iKai MPC and is extremely powerful. You can also slice MIDI with the harmonic tracks, but for now, let's just leave the sample alone, and let's do this only for the audio part here, for the drums here. Let's click slice to new MIDI track. So I just right click on it, slice to new MIDI track. And then it's going to ask me some questions. Create one slice per warp marker, transient, bar, or notes. Now in the iKai series from back in the day, you could only slice into equal slices. It wasn't per transient. So I like that a lot. I like being limited. So I'm going to keep the same limited mindset and have 16 slices so that this groove is cut up into 16 different samples. I'm going to do the slicing preset built in, But you also have different ones to play with. So if you're more experimental, start playing with these different types of samplers. All right, and if you want, I can also make a preset for you, but we'll do that in another video. So now let's just click OK. So I have 16 slices, and it's going to slice, and then we're going to skip over to the push. So now let's press OK, and you'll see the Ableton push transform into a little Ableton MPC. Boop. And what we can do now, as you can see, it's been sliced into 16 samples. So it's a little bit quiet. I'm just going to click on accent. Still a little bit quiet, so let's just put a utility behind it. Around 8 dB or so. All right, sounds about right. And let's increase the release, because right now if I let go of the note, it's immediately letting it's not letting the whole sample play, and I don't want to hold the buttons the whole time. So we increase the release, and what we can now do is play a completely different groove than the one we recorded. So the one we recorded sounded like this. Sorry, I already started messing with it. But what we can do is, instead of having that groove, we can start replaying something else in. So I'm just going to play something in that's different than what we had. And let's just play this top bar area and mess with it. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that sounded pretty good to me. So I'm just going to take this part and loop it, and make sure that it's a 4-bar loop. There we go. And I'm going to quickly just quantize that as well, so that we don't have any issues. So I'm going to click on the quantize button, boop, and then we should be good. We should have a groove now. Let's set 111 here again, just to be neat and tidy. And that's it. Now we have a different groove altogether. And what we can do as well is we can start playing in some keys if you wanted to. So if we get like Lounge Lizard or something like that, we drop that in. And the old school hip hop way, by the way, to get a bass line in here would be to duplicate the first audio group, cut the low end of it, and for the top end, you just cut the low end out. Bring that down a little bit. And then, on top of that, you'll start, doing your Lounge Lizard jamming out. Accent off. I'm doing this a little bit sideways. Let's just groove like this. It seems a little bit out of key, but I hope you get the gist. Let's just sample a little bit and have a little groove with it. 2, 3, and I'll just wait for the whole bar to go and think what I want to have. Okay. Okay, so that's a nice little groove. Let's again quantize. Actually, let's not quantize that. Let's just play that in from here and let that be playing a little group. And we duplicate that as well. And then if we want, we can, play an octave up. And then if we click on this little button, I think, we have a really chill little groove and a chill little concept. And remember, you can do your sends. So basically that's how you go about it. But what I suggest you do on top of this, if you want to start continuing to sample, I would suggest you get some more weird guys like Wim Overgouw and Blue Monk and Solo Monk. And you start sampling in those things too. And if you then use Melodyne, and here comes the trick, you can then alter those samples so that they will fit the key of the other song. And then the only thing you need to do is mix that in. So I hope you've enjoyed this how to sample video, not actually using sampler, but how to use samples and actually playing with it instead of just the technical talk. Much love. My name was Guido from Cat and Beats, and I'll see you guys again next week. If you have any questions about mixing and mastering, that's kind of my forte. Let me know, put them in the comment section below, and take care.